Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Attract, Recruit and Manage a High Performance Team. My name is Manelissa from CCIQ and I'll be your facilitator for today. Alongside me, I'm delighted to welcome Kevin Gammy from Growth Mentors. Building a high performance team is the most critical thing you can do to set your business apart. The playing field isn't even, and a high performance team doesn't just happen by accident. High performers are different to the average employee. They think differently and have different expectations, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're hard to manage. This webinar today will help teach you how to motivate, lead, and retain a high performance team. First, some tips to get the most out of today's session. We'll be online for about 40 minutes, and following the main presentation, there'll be an opportunity for some questions and answers. So please send through your questions through to Kevin using the text box on the screen at any time, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. Following from the session, we'll email all participants a copy of the presentation, a link, and any additional supporting info. I also think Kevin's got something to offer you guys later on. So now I'd like to hand over to Kevin from Growth Mentors, who will take you through today's webinar.
Thanks very much, Manel. Welcome. Attracting and recruiting high performers is something that most people consider a lot. Now, congratulations for being here. You've already decided to do something different, so that's a fantastic thing. It kind of reminds me of years ago when I was young. I used to go up to the country, up to Gloucester, and catch up with my uncle who ran a farm. There was always something to do, and whether we were cleaning out a dam, whether we were fencing, moving cattle from one paddock to another, nothing was ever rushed, but something was always happening. And I would ask him, so why are we always so busy? And he said, well, it's like this. If you want to get stuff done, you've got to do stuff. From today, what I want to talk to you about is the fact that what you've done and the stuff that you've done to get you where you are today has been fantastic. But if you're here, you're probably looking for something different. And so you're going to need to do something different. You may need to think a little bit differently about how you're going about your business and how you're going about recruiting your teams. So I'm Kevin Gammy. I'm from Growth Mentors, and basically I'm a mentor, coach, a trainer, an author. I help small business owners. I'm very passionate about helping small business owners achieve the success that they desire. So it's not always about building multi-million-dollar businesses, but it's about having the life and lifestyle that you truly desire through having your own business or through how you're leading other people. I have a background in accounting teams of Fortune 500 businesses such as IBM and Unilever. I've also been involved in sales and HR through working for one of the world's largest recruiters of Adecco and being a state manager for them. I established their Queensland operations in their accounting division going back to 1996, and then in 1999 set up my own recruitment business that at its heights had a turnover of $3.5 million. With 20 years of recruitment under my belt, I've probably interviewed more people than most. It would be well in excess of 10,000. Looking at a recent report from TAFE Queensland on the state of business here in Queensland, I got a little concerned. Whilst only 21% of businesses were concerned about the level of sales and sales growth that they had, 55% were concerned about their profitability, stating that it wasn't so good or that they weren't even aware of what it was. Only 16% looked at their profitability as being excellent. Now, the concern for me is that the pressure and the stress that would rise with people not performing, with the profitability not performing where the business is at. And the solution to that is to get the right team in place, to have the right team all focused in the same direction. So I'm going to assume that at some point in time you've promised yourself that you'd love to have a great team on board. You may not have called it a high-performing team at the time, but you thought about a team that looked after your clients with pride, that delivered a great service that your clients were absolutely delighted by. Well, it's time now to make a decision to do that. It's about your brand, and your brand promise is one of the first things that's going to be attractive to a prospective high performer. It's about the ecosystem that you've created, or the environment that you've created within your business. And in doing so, I want to help you explore the different facets that you need to look at. Back in 1999, I was recruiting for a new airline that had just joined the industry. It was called Virgin Blue. They were setting up here in Queensland, and we were recruiting some accountants for them. The one thing that constantly amazed me was how people looking to go to Virgin would take a massive pay cut from where they were, and then would be prepared to work much, much harder and longer for this organisation than they had for their traditional organisations for wherever they were. I mean, how was Virgin able to get away with that? Why would people do that? Who would do it? And for what reason were some of the questions that I came up with. I could go into the fact that Virgin was unencumbered by the history of a worn-out industry. They didn't have the stress of the pilot strike back in the late 80s and the hangover from that, or they weren't part of the industry that was, being new, they weren't almost ruled by the unions that had largely sucked the life out of any innovation within the businesses. And thinking along those lines, think of businesses like Google, think of businesses like Amazon, of Facebook. They don't struggle to attract staff. In fact, people are flocking to go and work for them. It's these brands that stand out in our minds, and they have one thing in common. They have a very clear vision. It's well documented and understood. They have a clear brand promise, and the business knows where they're going and what they're there to achieve. They're renowned for looking after their teams and for doing things differently from the status quo. Performance is monitored and measured, absolutely, and people do get sacked from these organisations. They're clear in their expectations, and when they're not met, there's obviously consequences. I wanted to talk about creating a champion team, and look, I'm a Sharks tragic, so give me my 5 minutes in the sun. Sure, 49 years it took us to get a premiership, but we did it with a team that were largely unwanted by other clubs. If you look at the star-studded lineup of the Melbourne Storm and contrast that to where the recruits of Cronulla were 2 years ago, they were largely unwanted people. We got Ben Barber from the Broncos, and basically they even paid half his salary for us. And we carried people like Andrew Fafita. So apart from that, I wanted to talk more seriously about having the right people in the right positions. And I go back to the movie Moneyball. It was a 2011 movie, had Brad Pitt in it, so you may know of it. It was about a story. It was a true story about the Oakland A's and how they were a team that was basically under budgeted. They didn't have the money of the high profile teams. And yet they were able to put together a team that challenged for the championship and nearly won it. Basically, the entire organisation started looking at and took the emotion out of their recruitment process and looked at who was the right person for the job, what were the different roles that were to be played, and who could they get to do that wasn't coming in at a high price. And here's the difference between looking to recruit stars and looking to recruit performers. Stars will often come in with the big egos and the demands and the attitude. They'll come in feeling like they know it all, as opposed to your performers who are looking to see how they can contribute. It kind of reminds me of one of my clients, or a couple of my clients, Helen and Scott. They're awesome at what they do, and bringing in work is no challenge to them. The biggest challenge to them has been recruiting and keeping good quality team. And in working with them recently, they worked out that they didn't have a clear goal. They didn't have clear values. They had a big dream for the business, but they didn't have their operating procedure just yet. And after taking time to actually work out the style with which they truly want to operate in, and they worked out that they didn't have to be serious about their business, they had to be serious about how they served their clients, and that was a great asset to them, and all of a sudden things started to turn around. they started to attract the people that they were looking for that could take them to the next level. So what is it that performers are looking for? What is it that's going to drive performers? I'm going to suggest there's three things. They want to be inspired, they want meaning, and they want to be challenged. Performers generally will maintain a childlike curiosity as opposed to that know-it-all attitude. They won't try and distort and generalize information to fit into their current view of the world. They'll look for how they can improve things. And in doing so, generally you'll find that the performance of a performer, strangely enough, will be far greater and a multiple times multiple is rumoured to be up to 400% of that of an average worker. So to create such a performance culture, you're looking for performers rather than stars. And in doing so, I've looked at and analysed what are the 7 key factors of what they're going to be driven for, what they're going to be driven by. The first thing is going to be a challenge. They love autonomy and they love to solve problems. Make sure that everyone in your organisation has a challenge and is given the opportunity to solve problems. The second thing, they're looking for growth, they're looking for learning, they're looking for development. So don't try and offer them the same job that they just had. I'll talk about that in a second. They're looking for feedback, and make sure that that feedback is given in a positive manner. Make sure that they can find out how they can do their role better rather than they've just done something poorly. Because they'll try new things, and that will, of course, include mistakes. They are looking for a competitive pay. So if you're thinking, hey, I don't have a lot of money, I can't pay people, well, when you're scrimping, you may be missing out on recruiting some of these performers. And they will be looking for recognition and a public pat on the back. Someone once said, a little praise goes a long way. And flexibility. Often performers don't fit the standard norms. You'll find a lot of people out there have awesome skills, have awesome attitudes, but they don't just quite fit our normal 9-to-5 mentality. And with that, the more flexible you can be and the more you can accommodate the life and the lifestyle that they're looking for, the more they'll reward you with loyalty and with that performance. And ultimately, they're looking for career advancement. I talked about recruiting people into a job that they already had. You know, years ago, I had a friend who was very close friends with another recruiter who was in the same industry that we were. And throughout our discussions, I found out that this other recruiter was actually looking for another role. They were looking to move out of the industry. And over the course of a couple of conversations, I encouraged them that, hey, maybe what you just needed was a different environment. Maybe that would spark your enthusiasm and rekindle that love that you had for recruitment years ago. I've got to confess that after a year, we parted company. We found that performance was inconsistent. We found that her love for the industry had just dwindled. And it wasn't that, it wasn't about the environment. It wasn't about anything. It was just she needed a new challenge. And I had to put my hand up and say, I'm sorry for encouraging you to do that. And she said, look, I'm sorry that I didn't perform better. We parted as friends and we still talk to this day. As one of my former colleagues said, it was kind of just the same sentence in different prison. So make sure that you're not just dragging people into your business, do a job that they know they can already do. That person's unlikely to be the performer that you're looking for. The first thing we need to start thinking about when we're looking at your particular business is your leadership. Sometimes it'll be said, hey, I need a better team, but sometimes the team need a better leader. You know, a team of performers with a poor leader will not go anywhere near as far as a team of average people with an awesome leader. And so it is about being the inspiration, the motivation, and putting in the right guidance and direction for the team that you have there. You know, John Maxwell talked about, you know, that leadership is inspiration and motivation combined. And it's about making sure that you've got the process to ensure that you can be the person that these people are going to be inspired by. People will buy into you in that first interview long before they truly know what the company's mission really is. If you start thinking about people who you'd love to work for, whether you own your own business or whether you're working for someone else today, one of the key questions that I'd ask is, who would you like to work for? And I'm guessing that names are going to pop up that are, the superheroes of business. They're going to be the Richard Bransons, the Oprah Winfreys, the Nelson Mandelas. People that you go, hey, this would be someone who's going to be truly inspiring. So the more you can be that, the better off you're going to be. From time to time, clients will ask me to look after, to have a look and review ads that they've created. And far too often I see we're looking for as the very first thing in the ad. And that sets the tone for who the business is all about right from the outset. And I can tell you, performers are going to overlook those ads in an instant. They're looking for an ad that's going to help them understand what they can get out of that business and how they can contribute, as opposed to what the business is looking for. At this point in time, it's unlikely that you've got a big brand name that you can rely on. So to quickly show what your business is really about, what style your business and how they're likely to be treated, making sure that your ad is focused on them and what they're going to get out of it is really all about that. Look, we're no longer in the 60s and 70s. We're no longer operating businesses in a military style of command and control. Today's world's very different. With the rise of instant information and the knowledge era, it's really a relationship era that we've now come to be in. And building an engaged team is where it's all about. You'll need to be engaging as a leader to be truly involved in understanding where your team is at, what's going on in their lives, so that you can be empathetic to that in helping guide them through to perform excellently. Someone who understands this is a guy called Tony Hsu. Now, Tony is the head of Zappos. He built Zappos, which was an online shoe store, from nothing to $1 billion within 10 years. Sure, he had great financial backing and resources before he set this business up, so he was ahead of the game already. But he didn't see his business as selling shoes online. He never saw them as being a shoe sales business at all. In fact, he saw them as a customer experience business that just happened to sell shoes. His mission was solely on how he could wow their customers, and they managed to do just that. They had free returns for up to 6 months, and in free returns, he wasn't talking about you pay the postage back. It was you send them back to us and we'll look after the postage, without any questions being asked. They later extended that to 12 months. They managed to take all the stress out of buying shoes online, and in doing so, they were able to achieve their goal of being a $1 billion business in 10 years. They were then approached by Amazon, and they were bought out for that same price, $1 billion. A great reward for that touchy-feely stuff is how I see it. A client of mine, Amber, who delivers IT services, had a mature business that had been very stable for 5 years. It was kind of not really going anywhere. And the challenge was Amber wasn't earning what she should have. She could have gone out and earned twice as much money had she gone to a competitive organisation or a larger business. They'd done the whole vision, mission and values thing, and they were all strong. The challenge was their commitment to them. They weren't always completely on board with that process. They were never far away from them, but occasionally a shortcut was taken and things were missed. And as a result, the business wasn't performing exactly as she wanted. One day she worked out that, hey, I want to have a retirement fund. And the business as it is, I'm not going to be able to sell. She quickly set about working on refining the values, working on refining things, just making subtle changes. And within that, over the next 12 months, the business took off and grew by 20% in the next year so that they could surpass the $1 million mark. And they've continued to grow at that same rate since. So leadership, as I said, is all about inspiring your team. and giving that performer the inspiration they're looking for. When it comes to the organisation's mission, it's about giving the performers meaning, working for a business that is doing something more than just making money. In thinking about that, I think about the different mottos and the different slogans of some of the great businesses, and I look at Facebook and they're connecting the world. And that's something that we'd all like to be involved in. Nike with their Just Do It campaign and helping people get moving and helping people do the things that they know they'd like to. Even McDonald's has a motto of play to win, which is centered on exceptional customer experience through people, products, place, price, and promotion. And McDonald's, love them or hate them, is one of the most successful businesses in the world at delivering what they said they would. Their franchisees consistently are getting exactly the returns or greater than what was promised. You know, Google give their staff 1 day a week to work on a passion project, which seems counterproductive. How often have we been that leader, and I know I have, maybe you haven't, that have gone, hey guys, we need to get more focus, we need more productivity, bang, 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 rather than looking at the outcomes that we're desiring. Google's 20% of passion project time basically has resulted in an amazing array of different products that they've put into the market. You know, your Google Glasses, maybe not a great success, but things like Gmail came out of this particular passion project thing. And as a result, the company's expanded their market and how they operate quite significantly. I had a client, Dave, who was working in the project management space. He was a consultant and he wanted to create basically a more of a consultancy style business around what he did. He had some IP that he developed to help very complex projects succeed and get across the line delivering what they were meant to. He was getting frustrated by seeing the big brand name consultancies take on projects, narrowing the scope, and they're not delivering. In fact, projects were often put on hold or cancelled after millions and multi-millions of dollars were spent on them. One day he realized, crap, you know, I'm doing a better job at this and I really should look after my family. And with that, all of a sudden, he kicked into, he had a bigger picture. He had a bigger thing. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about he could deliver for the clients something better than what was out there in the marketplace today. With that, he set about starting to become an authority in the industry. So it's about having a greater meaning for the performer. Knowing what's important. We could talk about business values and aligning business values to personal values, but people get really confused about that. So let's just make it simple. Values are just the things that we find, the things that are important to us. When we align when we start being aware of the things that are important to our customers, we can start actually delivering the things that our customers want more consistently. It raises the success that we're having within the business, and who doesn't want to be part of that success? You know, successful people make decisions quickly and they change their minds slowly. I mean, have you ever had the experience of, you know, thinking, hey, I'd love to watch a movie, and then you get onto your Netflix or Stan or whatever, and you're flicking through and you're getting so confused, and, you know, 15 minutes later you're still looking for movies. I mean, how frustrating is that? And yet, how often do we do something similar in business? And how's that affecting the team that is working for us? Knowing what's important to us can establish the guiding principles that we have. It can establish the principles for setting up any decision that we have within that business and help us make decisions faster and more focused on the outcome that we're desiring and more on the outcome our clients are desiring. It's really important as we're recruiting that we ensure that the people that we're looking at are on board with all of those values, are on board with all of those things that are important to us. Because without that, what we'll find is we'll get that little bit of self-sabotage. Politics starts creeping into the business. People are looking to do things in a subtly different way. I mean, if you're like me, you've probably joined an organization in your past where, you know, on day, maybe not one, but maybe day two, maybe week two, somebody sat you down and gone, now, here's how things really operate around here. And it's not been anything like the standards on the wall. It's not been anything like the values that the business has. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to have values that are so cool that it's not worth really doing anything different. And make sure that you're focused on those values and that they are the things that are your guiding principles. I remember reading a book a while back, the very opening of it said, maybe biker gangs are the only people we really should trust. And that sounds a bit strange because, they're pretty clear that they're not trustworthy. But as I said, they're pretty clear about that. Their vision, their mission, and their values and the standards that they have are all crystal clear. You break the rules and you know the price. It's going to be expulsion or maybe worse. They've got your back one way or the other. Look at other businesses who are well respected. Think people like the big four banks. Look at Enron, look at Arthur Andersen, look at HIH, and how when the values of the business aren't truly being followed, it can set about for a process that is going to cause a lot of internal conflict and a place where performers just don't want to be. So it's really about being clear about what is important in the business and then honouring that. The next thing I'm going to encourage you to do is to be outcomes focused. Mistakes are going to happen. Performers want to go about improving what's happening, and when we try new things, sometimes we won't get it right. We want to encourage an environment that we want to create an environment that encourages failure from time to time. One of my friends once said, Kevin, it's quite simple. All you got to do is you got to suck, and then you'll succeed. So eventually you'll get the process right as long as you're looking for constant improvement. I want to debunk the myth about the 10,000 hours you'll become an expert in anything, because that's not really the whole story. Just practicing 10,000 something for 10,000 hours won't help at all if you're not constantly looking to refine and improve what you're doing. And it's under those circumstances that you'll become a master of that. So it's about giving some guidance to your team. It's about helping them with direction. It's about giving them the freedom to succeed and the space to do so as well. Here's where you can help offer that challenge that that the performer is looking for. At the end of the day, we don't learn from doing the things that we knew how to do. We only ever learn from our mistakes. So the next thing we want to talk about was performers want to hang around other performers. Strangely enough, we've all heard the expression, a rotten apple will spoil the bunch. And performers will quite often not have time for people who are just there to waste their time, people who are just looking to produce a mediocre result. Their reputation is going to be tied to the reputation of the organisation and those that they're surrounded with. We are the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. So with that, performers will quickly move on from an environment that is inconsistent, where there's a number of people that aren't really motivated. And so they're looking for that. They're looking for that motivation, not just from the leader, but from those that are around as well. They want everyone to be committed to that common cause. We did talk a little bit about having a trusted standard, about having clear standards within the business. And it's amazing when you have clear standards around your business, when people know that here's what's expected of us and here's how we operate around here, how the level of trust goes up in an organisation. It'll move away from that situation of being where, when I was young, I was playing soccer and, hey, maybe I wasn't the greatest soccer player in the world, and so quite often people would pass the ball around me. And of course, it was like the team was playing with only 10 men. As a result, we'd lose more often. When you can trust everybody on the team and everybody's going to do their role, and everybody knows what needs to be done and what's expected of them, then they'll perform to that standard. But here's where it takes your leadership as well, because you'll need to enforce that those standards are maintained. To ensure that, you'll need to make some hard decisions, because with that, that's when trust will go up, not just amongst the team, but the team will be delivering a much higher standard of service to your clients, and your clients will have much greater trust in the company, which will in fact, spiral up to greater success of the business. and this is the environment that the performer loves. A client of mine, Melissa, she was new to business. She'd been in business for less than 12 months old when she started, and there was just her. As she started to recruit a team, she was noticing that one of her recruits would kind of do a really good job for a month or so and then kind of drift off for a little while. And we started talking about the standards so that as she expanded the team, that it was really clear what needed to be done, what the standards of behaviour around the office were, and so that she could lift that standard performance. Strangely enough, these days she's looking at expanding her business nationally, and this is within 3 years of opening up. So it's a magnificent story and a magnificent opportunity that was created just by setting really clear standards within her business. As a bit of a bonus today, what I want to do is talk about the 4 stages of business success. And we all will go through these, and you may be at different levels of this already within your business. But the first stage, and the stage that we've really been talking about today, is having a great brand. Having a great brand and a great brand promise is really about creating that environment that is going to attract performers to come and work for you, and being the leader that and having that business that is producing the results where you feel that life is at a good level, where your life and your lifestyle is what you were desiring out of your business when you first opened it up. Now, some business owners, they go further and they look to create a process-driven business. And they look to do not just having a few processes within the business, but having a business that is operating on the processes that are there. And those processes are driving the success of the business, and they're driving them higher. Others go further, and it's about developing leaders within the business so that they can expand and multiply and the business that they currently have, so they don't have to be involved in everything. And further on, some people then want to take it right to the very end where they can scale the business up by automating everything that they possibly can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a half-day workshop on this particular topic. And if you'd be interested in coming along, there's going to be a small fee associated with that. Just a quick recap on the 7 steps to attracting, recruiting and managing a high-performance team. It's about being an inspiring leader. It's about nurturing the growth and development of each and every employee to grow your business. It's about having a stimulating mission that's greater than the individual that people can buy into. Ensuring that you are aligning the values or the things that are important of each of your team to that of the business in a genuine way, and not just in a we'll see how they can fit. And it's about being results focused rather than process, rather than worrying about how people are getting those results. And then keeping the team engaged through caring about those team members and setting clear standards of excellence. By the time you're doing that, you're very much ready to take your business to the next level, to recruit that high performance team and to keep them engaged in doing so. If you'd like to grab a white paper on this, I'll let you email me at Kevin@Growth Mentors and I'll send you the white paper back. With that, basically it'll cover all the things that we've done in a little bit more detail than what we've discussed, to give you a template of how you can actually perform. And there's also some information there about that workshop. I want to thank you for your time today, for staying engaged through that process. It is a bit difficult when we can't interact, but thank you very much for the time today. I'll hand it back to Manel.
Thanks so much, Kevin. That's been a really informative presentation. We have had a couple of questions come through. The first one, how do you find out in an interview that people are on board with the company's values? So how is it that an employer or recruiters can find out during the interview process that that potential employee is really going to align with the values of the company?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and it's one that I often get asked, or often got asked as both a recruiter and as a coach these days. It's about thinking about your interview long before you're sitting there. It's about having a consistent process that you go through, and about creating the right questions to drag out the values of your prospects and of the potential employees that you do have. Rather than saying, hey, do you value lifelong learning, it's about talking to them about what they're looking to do in the future, about how they're going, and looking for the answers that are coming through and looking for some consistency in that growth. So rather than just having just one question, there'll be a couple of different questions that you'll create that will tease out some of the answers that you're looking for, that will see the things that they find that are important. And it's about really watching the code behind what they're saying as much as the stories that they're telling you at the time.
Great, thanks so much. We've had another question come through. If there's no options for promotion within a company, you're a small organisation, how is it that we could possibly be keeping staff motivated? What are some strategies that we can do for if there are no promotions, financially, or opportunity for growth in a new role?
Cool. Great question. And basically one of the things that as our companies grow and expand, one of the things that we're looking to do as a small business is to maintain, to grow our profitability, to grow our business, and hopefully, as a business owner, you're looking to have less time that you're working in the business and more time that you're working on the business. So in doing so, what you can do is you can actually hand more responsibility over to key staff members as you grow the business. If you feel that you need to be involved in absolutely every single facet of your business, one of the challenges that you'll end up having is that the business can only grow to a limitation of what you can do. Whereas when you start handing over responsibility to others, all of a sudden the business can grow beyond that. It's really about more than having a business, but becoming a business person and becoming a business that is more than just you. Sure, your personality may be infused very much in your business. However, I want to remind you that you're not your business. It's one of the key premises that that I work with, is the fact that no matter what's happening in my business, I'm not my business. The things that I do, they're the business. But at the end of the day, when I make mistakes and the business suffers, it's because I made mistakes. It isn't because I'm a bad person, because I'm able to separate those things. And as such, the more I can hand work off to somebody else, the greater the business can expand. And as a result, even though you thought you didn't have anywhere for that person to go, they're able to take on more responsibility. They're able to lift up into a new gear and into new challenges because they've shown you that they're capable of doing so.
Great. Thanks so much. That's all that we have time for in terms of questions. On behalf of CCIQ, I'd really like to thank you, Kevin, for coming in today from Growth Mentors and taking the time to present to us. I would also like to thank everyone who's joined us for the session today. Don't forget, CCIQ has a range of webinars and events coming up over the next month or so. We've always got some interesting topics in the mix. As you can see, there's a few coming up on the screen. If you would like to get your hands on that white paper from Kevin, his email address is on the screen there as well. Any information that you seek, you've got the CCIQ details there too. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name's Manel Issa from CCIQ, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar in the very near future.